If you love adventure,
magic,
and more fun
than you ever imagined,
you should be reading Star Comics.
Welcome, dear listener, to our podcast. Jeff and Rick present Unpacking the Power of Power Pack,
where we journey through each issue of the most underrated Marvel series of the 80s while drinking beer,
analyzing awesome and amazing adolescent adventures, and absorbing alcohol.
I am Jeff.
And I am not feeling well.
That's a darn shame, but you know what?
What?
This is my random. This is my gun. One is for banter, one is for fun. Random banter time, buddy. Tell me a tall tale of tantalizing treats.
Listen here, Private. I don't care what you came into this gosh darn army for, but my name is Ali Emery, and you are going to lick that toilet clean. Do you understand me, pal? The hardest part is cleaning it up for family friendly.
Yeah, but, I know. Well, I figured it tied in because we're a family friendly show, and at some point in the movie they talk about kids.
So yeah, we can't really.
I'm not going to extrapolate on that because it's terrible.
No, bad Jeff.
I know.
Bad Jeff. The best time I had watching that movie was when I was in basic training. Well, not basic training, but AIT. Because basic training, you can't watch movies. But in AIT, we watched that movie a lot because, well, irony.
Yeah.
And I did hear recently a review of that movie where they had a Marine on there, and Marines like, yeah, Marines love that movie because it is nothing but I saw that movie and I knew I wanted to be a Marine, and most Marines will get that. Okay. It's like, yeah, okay, I can see it.
I've got some Marine friends. They have good stories.
Yes.
They have very, very good stories.
Yes. I do not necessarily, well, I guess I have a little bit of a story. I mean, my story is that we are a day away from Avengers Endgame showing. And so in preparation for that, my wife and I have done the Marvel Marathon. We haven't matched it up with one movie a day because, we don't have that kind of time.
Yeah, because life.
But I managed to get it set up perfectly with our schedule, at least, so that tomorrow we are going to be watching Avengers Infinity War.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be going down to Medford to see my friend and go to their little Medford Comic Con too, and we're going to go see it Sunday night, my friend and I. But it's been really fun watching with my wife. We've been watching in chronological order, so we start with Captain America, First Avenger, and kind of going through it where the movies will place, not when they were actually released. And it has been fun for us to go through and do it that way because you get... Well, especially my wife, she's really putting a lot of pieces together. For me, it's like, oh, this makes more sense now, and I can see how they did this, and it just fits very well. Besides that, it's also given me an opportunity to do a forced ranking system and kind of figure out what both my wife and I think the Marvel movies are in order from what we think is best to worst. So it's kind of fun. It's interesting to see how we view the movies differently because we're looking for different things in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. And you're two different people, and two different people are going to have two different sets of opinions. So perfect. And
it's, not saying that, just because one movie, I don't think it's great, it still is a good movie. There are no bad Marvel movies.
Yeah, that's really the great thing about the Marvel stuff. Honestly, the only movies that I buy anymore are the Marvel films. Yeah. So, about every 3 months, out goes $20. But, it beats what I used to be doing where it was like, movie.
That's what I've been doing. I mean, that has kind of eaten up my last 3 weeks of nights.
As it would.
What about you? What has been new with you?
Well, for the new Endgame movie, I also am looking forward to 3+ months from now when I'll get to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed I added plus on there because that's how that's going to be.
By the way, since we're on Into the Spider-Verse watch, how's Hillary doing? I mean, both you and Hillary doing watching the movie?
We are still halfway through.
Excellent.
Yeah,
excellent.
So
all right.
I gotta light that fire again. But also, what fire has been lit for me is that I'm back in remodel mode.
Really?
Yep. So
I couldn't tell.
I mean, with all the furniture that's been pulled out of the room upstairs, and you coming in, and I'm covered in a little bit of drywall plaster because I'm working on nail pops right now.
No, it was more I couldn't tell because in the tiny amount of space that we have in your basement, it's been made even tinier. Yeah. And now the computer is halfway across the room because we have paint cans between me and that.
Those are eventually going to work their way upstairs where they will be emptied and used.
Sure.
No, I'm getting close. I'm about, a third of the way done with my nail pops and potential wall repair stuff. But yeah, getting back on that home remodel bandwagon, which is timely and due and needing to be done, and I'm looking forward for it to being over, but it's gonna get done.
You know what I'm looking forward to?
What's that?
More Snark Wars.
More Snark Wars. Snark Wars. We're in the heart of the Snark Wars.
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And I'd like to apologize right now for my voice. It probably might sound okay, but I've kind of got this, what I'm going to call a sinus infection, which my sinuses have been fine this year. And yesterday I'm like, hey, my sinuses hurt.
Yeah, your voice is kind of rasping down a little bit. So we'll see how hour of talking does to it.
Oh, it's probably going to do very well. But to get us started, can you give us a 2-sentence replay of last issue?
A camouflaged cruiser of Snarks has snark-napped the power pack and forced them to help retrieve a badly frostbitten high-snark jackal from his Arctic imprisonment and then whisk them all away on a potentially one-way trip to Snark World where their powers will be stripped and given to Jackal to help ensure his winning the Snark Wars. A mostly unsuccessful breakout occurs that frees Kofi, leaves a revived Jackal with an extremely Powerball-fried hand, and has Katie, Gandalf falling to her apparent death in the caverns far, far below. Now that the Alex and Julie bicker the entire issue and it's really annoying 2-sentence replay is over, why don't you give me a beer and tell us what our power pack pick is?
My pleasure, my friend. This issue is called When You Wish Upon a Star. And so because of that, I've got for us tonight...
I'm excited to see what you got.
Starlight White Ale.
Oh, that's awesome. The cover on this really ties in. It's great. It's got a celestial bodied unicorn. It's basically a silhouette of a unicorn in front of a nebula filled with stars. That is amazing looking. Let's see, what's story time on this? See things differently. Okay, Moon Shrimp Brewing. That's an interesting name for a brewing company as well. Oh, and it's out of Portland, Oregon. Okay. Well, that's kind of cool. I'm very curious to see what this white ale is like. Already looking through the bottle, I can kind of tell that it's going to be a little hazy.
So you ready for this? This is a totally gluten-free beer.
Really?
A very light summery beer with a touch of crisp sweetness and slight sour tang, rounded out with coriander and citrus notes, light and refreshing, 5.5% ABV and 20 IBU. Totally gluten-free.
That's impressive. I know that a lot of the problem with beer that a lot of people have that have the gluten intolerance is, beer has gluten.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that looks like a grapefruit soda pop almost.
Yeah. It's very clear, very white.
Yeah, that is... Yeah, the bubbles stick to the side, but then it seems to not be bubbling at all, which is interesting. Yeah, that is in fact a white ale, but it's got a little bit of kind of... I said grapefruit because it's got a little bit of kind of pink going into it. And, wow, that's interesting. I don't think I've had a beer that has looked like this.
Oh, this is interesting.
Okay, I can't identify the nose of it. It's pleasant. I wouldn't exactly call it floral. It's maybe a little bit citrusy.
Yes.
Kind of like a kiwi or something?
I think it's like coriander. It might be messing with you a bit.
It's probably the coriander, yeah. Ah, what the?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that.
Wow,
this is familiar.
It hits the tongue in an odd way.
Yeah.
And when I say odd, I don't know if I care for it. Got a bit of an aftertaste on it. Everything on it is fairly mild.
There is something very reminiscent about an alcoholic drink that I've had before, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah. Not a watery Moscow Mule. Is it like the end of a margarita?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Like the really melted ice margarita kind of thing. It's hard to...
Tequila.
Okay, yeah.
So yes, the margarita.
Yeah.
It's got that, for me, some of that kind of tequila.
Yeah, I could see having the agave notes, yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
That's just different.
That's weird.
Does it say what it's made with on here?
Yeah, you know what? I've got something on that.
Dedicated oat and gluten-free facility. Other than that...
Water, millet, vegan beet sugar, hops, orange peel, whole coriander, and yeast.
Okay, it's the orange peel that's giving it the that kind of margarita kind of thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hidden in there, but it really seems
it goes away.
Kind of. It seems like it's just resting on the top center of my tongue, which is weird. to me, it really does have that kind of like dregs of your drink flavor.
Yeah.
Which, that's not a great thing.
No.
It's usually kind of like a good drink, and then you're at the end of it, and you go, well, I can get, there's another sip in there, but it's, yeah.
This is something interesting. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but as far as matching it up, though.
Yeah, Starlight White Ale, or Starlight White Ale. Yeah, that goes great with the whole When You Wish Upon a Star motif.
Yeah.
And it has a horse on it, and space scene, so it matches perfectly.
But
the taste is something.
Let's see what we feel after we
a little bit
do
later.
this. All right. Please give us the credits.
Power Pack, issue number 24, July 1986. When You Wish Upon a Star. Credits: writer Louise Simonson. Pencils: John Bogdanov. Inks: Bob Wycheck. Letters: Joe Rosen. Colorist: Christine Scheel. Editor: Carl Potts. Editor-in-Chief: Jim Shooter.
Featuring Power Pack. Alex Power, aka G. He's the oldest sibling. He increases or decreases the gravity of objects he touches. Julie Power, aka Lightspeed, second oldest Power sibling. She flies very fast, leaving a rainbow trail behind her. Jack Power, aka Massmaster, second youngest Power sibling, controls his molecular density. I don't know why I talked about their powers, because we really don't see them use their powers in this issue.
No,
not really.
We kind of do in the most minorest of ways.
Moving on, though. Katie Power, who does use her powers, she's known as the Energizer. She's the youngest Power sibling, and she disintegrates matter, turning it into energy, which she can expel into power balls. Franklin Richards, aka Tattletale. He can see the future in his dreams, and he can do some astral projection. We have Kofi, the chameleon son of the diplomat, and he can teleport. Also guest starring Queen Marad, evil snark queen who wants her son to be the new emperor. Jackal, the son in question, who really, really hates Power Pack. And he has been physically maimed by these meddling kids. Lord Yurik, he is the chameleon diplomat and father of Kofi. He used to have healing powers, not so much anymore, because Chancellor Hadge, the snark subordinate to Queen Marad, has taken those healing powers. We also have, back on Earth, James Power, the very distraught father of Power Pack who is looking for his lost children, and Cloak, part of Cloak and Dagger, who can teleport through a dark dimension.
Whoa, boy. We are in the center of it now.
Yeah, this is a really thick multi-part story that has thrown these kids across the galaxy, threatened the loss of their powers, and has endangered their lives.
No, I meant that we're in the center of Snark World with Katie.
Son of a Tootsie Pop. I mean, yeah, you're right. At the end of last issue, she was discovered in a cavern lake by some strange creatures, who we now get to see on this splash page as they pull the lifeless body of the youngest Power from the water.
These are burrowers, and they're kind of cute. They are shorter than Katie, with oversized bald heads with batwing ears. Their gray bodies have longer fur on their shoulders, forearms, calves, and midsections. They have 3 claws/fingers on their hands and feet, and an extra claw on their knees.
Their speech patterns are very primitive, but they have identified Katie as important, as she might be the falling star of legend that will lead them to the light.
Are you saying that she will guide them to the light, as told by legend, where the star child shines so bright?
Settle down, Springsteen. They cannot stand around for long. The Snarks, or dragons as the burrowers call them, arrive looking for the lost little light launcher and open fire.
Shracked cow.
These little guys are doing their best, but as they escape, the short fuzzy aliens are kind of bumping the critically injured child's noggin on the ground.
Thump. No, Jack, stop bumping me. I'm coming.
They apparently knock her head so hard that we get most of a page of a recap from the last issue.
And as science tells us, the harder you knock your head, the longer your previously on flashback lasts.
Eventually, the recap and the rivaling Jack's number of head traumas journey is over. And for the low price of many lost brain cells, they find Lord Yurik hiding out in one of those tunnels.
Now, I'm not sure how this happened. Last we saw of this guy, he was being sucked dry of his healing powers milkshake and was lying in a crystal shell. Neither he nor any narration gives us an explanation of how he escaped.
Well, he has, and these dwellers know he is a healer.
Was a healer.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
They do now. He just told them.
Well, sure, of course he tells them now as they try to get him to fix their star.
Then why did you say they know he is a healer?
Talking to you is kind of like describing a sphere. There's really no point.
Yurik takes Katie into his arms and encourages Katie to tap into her chameleon power and heal herself.
Wow, talk about a long con. This was hinted back in issue number 5 when Julie's arm healed faster than normal.
But Katie doesn't want to heal herself as she thinks that she is a monster. Beyond her pain, she has a massive guilt over hurting Jackal and just wants to die.
Meanwhile, miles above.
Home of the trapped and taunting tots.
If something worked once, why not try it again? The 3 remaining captive kids are making faces and calling names at Jackal, hoping to rile him up so that he attacks their crystal cages again.
This time, though, it's not working.
Correct, much like the Trailblazers coolly ignoring the insults of the Thunder in Game 4 of the 2019 NBA playoffs, and Damian Lillard sinking the most incredible three-point shot to cap off the Game 5, Jackal is just doing his job. Now that he has been healed up for a bit, his mind is calming down a bit. He still is trading insults with the kids, but he is patiently waiting to be completely healed. His hand still has that deep Kentucky Fried Chicken texture, and he is still feeling some pain.
Wow, a topical sports reference in a geeky podcast?
Some of us take the time to keep up with a variety of newsworthy events in order to better ourselves.
I'm guessing you were either bored at work or you were somewhere without your phone's internet and there was an open newspaper around.
Yeah, so? But speaking of pain, Hodge is looking very unsteady as he uses some of his stolen power on the High Snark Jackal. Murad also notices this, recognizing that in volunteering to test the power transfer device, that her subject has placed their health and sanity in jeopardy.
So, not Shosha approved.
What?
Snark Oppression Health and Sanity Agency.
Moving on, Hodge goes to rest with her queen's blessing, and Murad leads her son from the room, and leaving the older power siblings to sink into despair over their circumstances and to ponder how their parents are feeling about them being missing.
If only there was some way that we could flash over and find out.
Meanwhile in Central Park,
Home of the fearful, frightened, frantic, and fretful father.
he ain't lying. Jim is screaming into the snowy night, looking for his lost little lambs.
And suddenly, wolves approach. No, seriously, the Wolves Gang. You remember those losers we saw in issue 17? They were harassing the kids in what looked like pajamas on a subway train?
I feel like we need those editor boxes to pop up with our references.
Yeah, well, this gang of punks wander out of the woods and are not helpful.
No, they are not. One of them insinuates that they may have the lost sheep, and flicking out a switchblade, say that they sure have the knives to do the shearing.
This, unsurprisingly, doesn't sit well with Jim, who then yells out,
No! What have you done? Where are my children?
We carve up kids, Pop, and eat them for breakfast.
Which causes Jim to grab their leader, who punches Jim in the gut, and Jim kicks the kid into the snow.
Jeff.
The punk then yells out,
Now you gots to apologize to me, man.
Jim is not really in the mood for this, so he tries to take on the 3 guys around him.
Thump.
It
Whack.
goes
Brack.
poorly.
Thud.
Still, Jim gives it the old college try, but he ends up on the ground with his glasses broken and the head dude kneeling over him with a gun in his face, demanding an apology again.
That is why the pack of wolves do not see Cloak appear behind them. Needless to say, these guys take a quick trip through the black shadowy funhouse while Cloak activates the dialogue prompt for one of his generic standardized monologues.
The world is a cold place where the strong prey upon the weak, is it not? But you will find that it is not so cold as my cloak of darkness, where you will discover what it is like to be preyed upon.
He then turns to Jim Power and offers to help him.
You see, Cloak has a special interest in lost children, owing to the fact that he himself is one.
Meanwhile, in the Avengers Mansion,
Home of the sand-slumbering super kid.
a worried Frank is looking out into the night, worried about his lost friends. He has tried telling all of the adults he knows what happened, but to no avail. This is mostly due to the fact that most of the adults were his family, the Fantastic Four. And as we have said many times before, they are the worst family to have.
So, in a moment of desperation, he turns off the alarm to the Avengers Mansion, opens the window to his room, and desperately calls out for help.
Answering his call to the heavens is the soon-to-be-introduced star brand of the new universe, his star symbol shining bigger and brighter in the night sky as he approaches.
Actually, that isn't Starbrand. That is just a cool effect that was drawn for the arrival of whom Franklin actually called out to.
And whom is that?
Friday, who promptly showed up when one of the pack finally called.
Friday believes the powered-up pup's story, and after a brief smart ship sniff of the air, confirms that a snark ship was here. Gadzooks!
Well, it is time for some more bad idea theater. Frank scrawls out an adorable note to his father, explaining where he's gone. But, being 4.5, he has not yet mastered those pesky letters for this important message.
Instead, he draws a sun, 3 stars, a circle with his impression of a snark inside, a representation of Friday, himself with an arrow pointing to the snark circle, and his name. All in all, if you know the context, a pretty succinct and informative drawing.
Then he costumes on and climbs into the irresponsible smart ship who takes off into the night.
Meanwhile in the caves.
Home of another episode of multiple storylines.
Yeah, hang on tight. Katie is still more interested in dying than trying to heal herself. Yurik tries a couple of different tactics to motivate Katie. First up, he tries calling her a coward.
Wow. Real good motivational speech there, Mr. Ambassador.
We also get some dialogue confirming that Yurik thinks very little of his son, calling him just a child, much to Katie's disgust. Yuri's next tack is to point out that if she dies, so will her siblings, and many other individuals, and that it would shame Whitey.
Hello, guilt, my old friend. I've come to wallow here again.
I guess when he gave us his powers and told us to save our world, he meant this one too, even if it's full of crummy snarks.
That's the spirit, Katie.
Meanwhile in other caves.
Home of the prancing ponies.
Yeah. We have a scene of Kofi running away from the gunshots on all fours, and it's kind of silly, and kind of cool, and kind of cute at the same time.
Between that and some well-timed teleports, he is just staying ahead of the lizard men.
Tracked.
After a glancing hit from one laser, Kofi starts to fall off a cliff, catches himself, teleports into a crack in the roof, then...
Conk.
Jackhammer time! Kofi knocks out a snark who is looking over the edge of the cliff for him, grabs his weapon, and lays down some impressive strafing fire.
Stract. Spyow. Zap.
This gives Kofi enough time to find another thin passage to crawl into. The Snark Lieutenant directs his troops to cut off the fighting foal at the passage's exit.
But they are too late. Kofi makes it out of the passage and finds himself above a lake of lava. Unfortunately, the Snarks are covering all of the exits, which means Kofi is trapped here. We should mention that the lava bubbles up into floating glass balls that rise up to, and breaks on, the ceiling of the cavern.
Meanwhile in space.
Home of the infighting space skirmishing Snarks.
Friday hops out of hyperspace in the midst of a space battle with hardcore snark-on-snark action. 'Cause baby, the Snark Wars are on! Now I'm not sure who is fighting who, but I do know that once Friday appears, the combatants forget their previous targets, and all weapons become trained on our friendly neighborhood smart ship.
As Frank looks out, he has one of his special daydreams and sees Kofi floating in space. Friday and Frank decide that it must be something that will happen. Friday then suggests that he should use his new astral projection type power to find Kofi and see what's going on.
Friday must have been leveling up their piloting skill because they are doing an amazing job of flying and dodging the Snark ships. In fact, Friday gets 2 of the enemy ships to crash into each other.
Franklin is in a bit of a panic because he has both never used this astral projection power set on purpose before and never done it while awake. So the ever-resourceful Friday removes one of these impediments by turning on a hypno screen that puts Frank to sleep.
Memo to self, get a smart ship that has a hypno screen.
And then Frank appears behind Kofi, who is still laying down some excessive, if ineffectual, covering fire.
And scares the forelock off that pony boy. Frank's ghost image makes a great target for the Snarks, allowing Kofi a moment to breathe and talk to Mr. Tattletale. During this talk, Frank suggests that Kofi teleport up into space.
Kofi really does not like this idea, because he will, die and everything, because space?
It's negative thinking like that keeps you from reaching your full potential.
You mean, living?
Exactly! Meanwhile, miles below...
Home of the arguing actors.
And before we start, I should point out that my comic book and the digital comic have pages 18 and 19 in the wrong order. Took me a moment to figure it out, but with the order sorted in my head, we see Katie glowing with purple bubbles as she is willing herself to heal. And while it seems to slowly be working, she is questioning why Whitey did not use this to save himself.
My nephew survived long enough to transfer his powers to you. You owe it to him to use them.
Hey, Newt Horsey, first, you did not answer her question, and second, why you gotta be a jerk?
Katie calls him out on his non-supportive answers and even goes so far as to say she hates him. Her hate seems to be fueling her healing power.
So hate may lead to the dark side, but it also leads to feeding your health meter. Good to know.
This is all well and good, but the Snark Red Shirt search party is zeroing in on this band of rebels, and the loud, bickering ambassador and Superchild are not helping them hide.
Yeah, the cabin dwellers are really getting annoyed at Yurik, but they finally convince the 2 interlopers that they gotta move. And as Katie starts to expand a hole for them to escape, Yurik begins his pity ploy. We will summarize.
Woe is me, my powers are gone, and I'm old and whiny, leave me, sigh.
Yep, that's about right, but Katie ain't taking it.
I didn't know Kofi's dad was a coward.
Yep, that figurative slap across the face motivates the Chimelian, and luckily, they have time to escape before the Snarks break into their hidden hatch.
Meanwhile, on the swerving ship,
home of the sleeping superhero.
Friday continues to duck and weave while Franklin sleeps. His astral form is still convincing Kofi to trust him and teleport into space. I mean, Frank dreamed where he will be, so it should be fine. Right?
Right. Kofi really does not like this idea, but as the Snarks pursuing him start to use their big old reptilian grasshopper legs to jump over the lava to capture him, he decides that he has to take a gamble. But this smart horse, he has an idea. He teleports into one of the floating glass lava spheres, then teleports it and him into space.
His excitement at making it into space is quickly replaced by sheer, abject terror as Friday zooms by him, and the space battle rages around him.
Luckily, Frank spies the floating bauble and directs Friday to circle back. Kofi focuses on the returning ship and teleports out and into Friday as lasers destroy the glass sphere.
Tracked.
And a relieved Frank and Kofi embrace as Friday gets the heck out of Dodge and this battle.
And meanwhile in a lab on Snark World,
home of the formerly fighting but currently captured kids.
Don't you remember that there were 3 other kids in this book?
Vaguely.
Well, while admiring her collection of Power Pack-filled crystals, nearly a complete set with just a bit of foxing around the edges, Murad informs Jackal that she is sorry for having to subject her still-injured son to this transfer of powers before he's healed. Jackal is ready.
And the kids just don't want this to happen.
Yeah, but they're still captured, so they can't do a gosh darn thing about it. Except yell.
Actually, Julie points out that the Chancellor has not been looking well since she stole the healing powers from Yurik. Speaking of which, where is Hadge?
I am glad you asked. Meanwhile, in the Emperor's bath chamber,
home of the... Yeah, I walked into that one. Jokes.
A really sick-looking Hodge fights her way into the bath chamber, and the Emperor, surprised, asks if Hodge has come here to finish him off.
And?
And what?
Well, does she?
I don't know, because meanwhile back in Murad's lab,
home of the fool me twice jokes,
we see Jackal getting into the receiving crystal, and Murad readying the controls. They're done waiting for Hodge to get back, or the Snark hunting party to come back with Katie.
Yep, it's time to Frankenstein this situation up, and with a twist of a dial and a flick of a switch, we see the anguished faces of Alex, Julie, and Jack.
No, this can't be happening!
And it's nothing compared to what's coming next, the 25th anniversary double-sized ending to the Snark Wars, in which everyone loses his powers and finds some new ones. You'll hate yourself if you miss it. Next
issue, Power Trip. So let's talk about this Power Pack packaging. We have Power Pack 24 with the Marvel 25th anniversary logo in the box and all 4 Power Pack children and Franklin Richards in the... We have Franklin and Kofi up on a ledge as 3 Snarks are crawling up the wall towards them, and they're looking very afraid. And you know who's looking angry? It's Cloak, who's down in the bottom bubble corner because...
Yeah, he's trapped in a lava bubble.
Because guest cameo by Cloak, continuing on the fine tradition of announcing that we're going to have a guest star on an issue, that they'll only appear in 3 panels, but we give them valuable real estate on the front cover.
Well, the Cloak, was he in 3 or 2 panels?
Not much.
Yeah.
But we have this, I really like this. This is drawn by Bog and Bob. That's John Bogdanov and Bob Wyacek. So I like that, Bog and Bob. And it's a lot easier to say than either one of their names. But it's an interesting choice for this issue, but it makes sense. I mean, Kofi and Franklin do appear the most in this issue.
They're on a cliffside. They are being attacked by Snarks. Snarks eventually do climb over to Kofi, but it's after Frank goes. But
right, and Frank has no reason to be afraid in this because he's not really there.
Yeah,
but it's
it's great in the issue. In the comic he gets shot.
Yeah,
and Kofi's like, are you a ghost? And he's like, no, I'm just dreaming, man. It ain't a thing.
I think though, now that I think about it, we've had a couple of issues before now, which it's only been 1 or 2 kids on the cover. This is the first one where none of the Power Children are on the cover.
Yeah.
It's only Frank. I mean, we still have a Power Pack member, but it's only Franklin.
Well, there's a reason for that, though, too. And it's because there's about 8 different storylines going on in this, 24-page comic. So...
Well, let's get into some of those storylines. We'll start off with Jim getting mugged.
Oh, well, hold on. What do you, the cover, what do we think? Do we think it tied in well to the issue? We think it fit the mood?
I think it ties very well into the issue.
It was almost cut from a thing. It's just like if you put a panel on top of another panel, a previous panel, then you would have this. You'd have this cover.
You're right that there are so many different storylines. It's another step into what the final act of this entire thing is going to be. But there's so many things going on. It's kind of one of the bigger through lines. It's really the escape of the fantastic voyage, if you will, of Kofi getting out from the planet into the spaceship. So yeah, I think it's a good
Oh, I think it's great. It's a good-looking cover.
Yeah.
It's a good-looking cover, and it is very, very indicative of what goes on in the issue, or a part of the issue.
Yes. Getting into the issue, let's talk about Jim getting mugged.
Sucks.
And I also think that it's another one of these moments in the comic book that reminds us that, yes, we have these superpowered beings that are going around and doing all these things, but then we have a real human thing happening, where a father who is kind of throwing caution to wind and going out into Central Park at night and coming across a gang of guys, and you're not being as scared of them, just, he wants to know where his children are.
Kids?
And then he just gets owned.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. He we'll say he does okay for a bit, but he does okay for a scientist. There's a bunch of them.
He makes one good kick.
Yeah. Right at the beginning, and then he kind of gets thumped down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just sucks. I mean, think about what's going on with him right now. It's kind of like, hey, my wife almost died. She's in the hospital. She's recovering, but she's still in the hospital. Now all my kids are missing.
And I have to tell my wife about it.
And I have to tell my wife, who's, again, in the hospital. I am frantic. And it doesn't help that, in the previous one, when the cops came to ask him questions about what was going on, he gets to hear them when they're leaving going, well, probably something bad happened.
Yeah. This is a story that's not going to end well for this guy. Yeah. Poor sucker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I do like this, though. I do like the fact that we touch in on it and they kind of keep it fresh.
Oh, it's it really does.
We're not going to forget about the effect of the kids being gone on the family.
Yeah, and the kids even mentioned that. They mentioned that a couple of times. They mentioned in the previous issue as well, where they're like, oh, man, mom and dad are going to be worried because they know that we're going to be gone now. We can't just brush this off. We're not beating him home from the hospital. He's going to get home.
Right.
It's been a while.
To cap off Jim being mugged, he does get saved.
It wasn't even a mugging. It was just a
beatdown.
Yeah, it was a beatdown. It was punks being jerks.
I'm sure that if the scene continued a little bit while longer, Jim would
probably get mugged.
Yeah, Jim would have lost all of his stuff. I mean, they were coming out to mug him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, here's an old guy out where he shouldn't be. We're going to take his money. But thankfully, we have Cloak appearing. Without Dagger, which is weird.
Yeah, that really is, because he's pretty much a latchkey kid to her.
It is kind of nice seeing them separated. I know that there have been times in the comics history where they do get separated and do their own ways, but they always work better as a team. But still, they've got him coming, saving Jim. Oh, your kids are missing. Well, I'm going to help find him. I don't know if he realizes yet that this is Jim Powers'
kid. Yeah,
Powers' kids. They're not really clear with it. I mean, they do know his name. They might put it together between here and there, but I don't know if they. Yeah.
You know what's going to be amazing is if Jim takes him back to their apartment to show him pictures of what his kids look like and stuff, and he's all, he's like, wait, are you Jim Power?
Well, it's kind of funny because
it's like, I know your kids. I had Thanksgiving here.
I wonder how much information he gives him, because I know next issue he's going to run into Dagger, and Dagger's going to mention that Cloak told her, but. They must have their pictures.
Something, yeah.
I
haven't read the next issue yet. Spoilers. I mean, I did tens of years ago. But
well, you got to get on that. We're going to be recording it next week.
I know. Everything keeps on piling up. What are you going to do? Read comics. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of first in this issue. We got the first verification of the healing power.
Yeah.
Which it's kind of been hinted at before with Julie healed very quickly. That's kind of weird. But now we actually know that
it is in fact a thing.
It's a thing,
and a thing that they can activate. So it is. It is an actual power. And we get to find out that it is both an active power and a passive power, which is kind of interesting
and useful.
Yeah.
We also see the first cognitive use of Frank and his projection powers. Which really gets to his name of being Tattletale, because he can actually go and appear and sneak and look on people instead of just having these random.
Yeah, it becomes an at-will thing.
Right. And as it goes through, we'll see he gets better and better about putting himself to sleep and using the power. And this is kind of what I remember, because this one I was originally collecting comics and seeing his power used here. It's kind of like, I just thought he always had this power. But this is kind of when he first starts to get it and use it. Do you have any other first?
Yeah, and there's also the first of Kofi teleporting up into space.
Yes.
And he even says in the issue that that's the farthest teleport in known chameleon history.
And he keeps pushing his own use of
Yeah, he does.
And this is a way that he uses his power. Oh, I can't do it. I've never done it before. Try. hey, I did
that
it.
totally worked. He could have used his powers even better in this issue. Just, where it's like, yeah, he was doing great, but there was like, if you do this, you got it made. Oh, you're being attacked by snarks? Yeah, you can get away from. You can do some stuff.
But I still like him though. I mean,
he's great. Kofi's great.
He's a great character. He's really fun actually being there, and I think I like him being on the team. I like seeing him do things.
Yeah, it's neat to have him back. It's great to have Friday back.
It's great. Yeah,
Friday's really leveled up. There's some firsts. She's being attacked by lots of snark attacks and dodging most of them and having them fly into each other, as opposed to like in issue number 1 where it's like, snarks, yeah, I'm dodging for a bit, and now I'm getting shot out of the sky.
Well, that was, she was level 3 then. I think she'd probably get up to about level 8 or 9. Yeah, so she's doing pretty good.
She got that smart ship evasion feat, taking half or none.
I don't know if this is the first time Franklin's been in space. I'm pretty sure that
it is.
Is?
I want to say definitively. I want to say that it is, but also he's with the Fantastic Four. I don't know what they've done.
I doubt that highly. I think that his parents have taken him to space.
I'd be surprised they abandoned him at home a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, he's been in the Baxter building. I think the Baxter building has gone into space a few times with him in it. So
all right, but we'll say that he has. But I would like to say that it's his first time.
It's his first time going to Snark World.
Well, yes, it is. There's another first. First time for Katie falling into a big old cavern. First time for the powers to be successfully
First time
kidnapped.
we get introduced to the burrowers, cave dwellers. Yeah,
a lot of firsts in this.
A lot of firsts. But apparently, it's not Franklin's first time writing a note to his parents.
No.
But it is adorable.
Oh, it is the best note. And like we said in the script, it is literally, if you know the context of it, it makes so much sense.
Yes. And it's one of the things I remember from this issue. I remember that note. That's one thing I remember of reading this issue a long time ago, is that note.
I remember the lava bubbles.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what stuck in my head.
I did that one did not, but the note, that one definitely stuck in my head. I like that note.
Oh, and Jackal's claw hand. I remember that.
Oh, I remember that throughout the entire thing. Yeah. And that doesn't go away at all. Yeah. We've done this before, and I think Wheezy is pretty good about this, of doing a lot of different storylines and bouncing around a lot and really utilizing us saying meanwhile a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, she's really good about that.
Yeah, she's great at meanwhiling us. Or, if not meanwhile, while kind of thing.
Yeah. But at the same time, I think it does work.
Oh, it does.
I think there's good pacing on it.
And it doesn't take away from the other storylines either.
No, I think it helps flow, and it makes the book seem a lot more than it is. I mean, there's a lot of material that's in this one. There's a lot of material in the next one too. I do find it interesting though that even with the plotting and everything that's in here, that pages 18 and 19 are in the wrong order.
Yeah. I that is another thing that I remembered. I remembered because like however many 25, 30 years ago or something, I recall being confused by that, and then going, oh, this one, and anytime I'd reread them, I'd be like, okay, I got to flop pages here.
Well, what's interesting is that they're in the book, they're facing pages.
Okay, so it's easy enough to go.
And it's interesting because both page starts off with a small panel of Katie looking angry.
Which is probably why it got flipped in the books, is simply due to the fact that it was kind of like, okay, here's that one. Yeah. And it's like, it's the same, but it's different, buddies.
I just have also found it interesting that they never fixed that in Marvel Unlimited.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows? Well, a lot of stuff slips through there, so
yeah, it's one of those little things that I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. It makes more sense once you
yeah it still kind of works. You're like, it kind of jumps to whatever, but it's better when you go 19 then 18 then 20.
There we go. That's the way it should work. So if you're looking at this in Marvel Unlimited, keep that in mind. That's our nice, helpful hint to you, the gentle listener.
Never say we're not helpful. I dare you to say we're not helpful. Actually, do or don't, whatever.
We pretty much unhelpful, especially tonight. It's just a cavalcade of errors tonight. This is pretty bad. Okay. What is our no prize for how Yurik got into the caverns?
Okay, do you have an idea?
Not a clue.
Okay, so I have kind of two theories on it. I could see it as his crystal got broken as well, or he just snuck away after they drained him, and they're like, we've got this," and he like snuck away, and escaped into the caverns. But I could also see it very much as they suck him dry, and they just go, "You're useless to us now. Down the garbage chute."
Couple of problems with that though is that I don't see the Snarks doing that.
Yeah.
I don't see the Snarks doing that at all.
It's hard to know how
I could see him escaping, but I can't see him running down to that tunnel without then saying, "Oh, we need to get back, so we'll just turn around and go back the way we came." It's very strange, and like they just don't. He's just in there.
Oh, doppelganger. Yeah, he's a doppelganger.
No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and say
Gain the party's trust, and then he's going to backstab him when they least expect it.
I'm gonna say errant wormhole.
Errant wormhole. Okay. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness! You know what happened?
What?
He fell into a plot hole. Yeah.
Plot hole.
Yep.
Plot hole. Those things are rampant sometimes.
Sometimes they really are. Yeah.
It's just that, we don't see them that often in this book because this book's pretty tight.
Yeah, it is for the most part really, really tight.
But
yeah.
plot hole was found.
Yeah.
And the whiny horse called Uric went through it.
I understand why Kofi's kind of like, my dad. Because, yeah.
Yeah, your dad's a little bit of a jerk.
Yeah, because we're kind of like, Kofi's dad.
He is not the most helpful person in the world.
No. I don't even think when he's talking to Katie and stuff that he's like using a ploy. I think that's just how he is. I don't think he's like, if I get her angry, she'll heal up. I know that about my species. No, he's just like, you're a coward.
Yeah, and
you're not going to heal yourself, coward.
I think he's also jumping on the good old bandwagon of, you know what? The only way I'm really going to get out of here is if I use her. So I'm going to make her heal herself, and then, she can help me get out of here. But then he wants to lay down and die later on. So
really quickly, again, I think he has concerns for people. He really does. Like when he sees that the burrows bring in...
He better, because he's an ambassador.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe he's not a really good one, which is why he's stuffed over on Snark World.
I think it's a political appointment myself.
But yeah, it's kind of like when he sees Katie and it's like, oh my goodness, it's Katie. She, is, my whatever brother's powers went to her, all this stuff. And it's like, so he is like, concerned. And Katie, you've got to heal yourself. I don't want to. I want to die. Well, then you suck and nobody wants you to heal. Die then. Or heal. Get better, coward. It's like, you have a terrible bedside manner. And then when she's all, Kofi always doesn't like you because he says that you're basically a jerk. And he's all, who cares? He's a kid. It's like, good family man there, buddy.
Thus, I keep calling him Nude Horsey.
Yeah, Nude Horsey. Yeah.
I am going to do a very tiny literature corner on this one because I just don't feel like it.
Hey, that is the best reason why you shouldn't do something.
I have a little something here. In the Snark Wars, it is very difficult to find a good literary reference because it's just a lot of good old comic book action. Mm-hmm. Nothing really comes out, but I did see one thing that I thought was kind of funny. When the wolves are beating up Jim, they make a lot of allusions to Little Bo Peep, who lost her sheep.
Yeah.
So I decided to just kind of dig a little bit down that rabbit hole and find out a little bit of background information. There is a version of Little Bo Peep by somebody named Kronheim, which is a classic short story version of the popular nursery rhyme, in which Peep gets help from a princess trapped as an owl and some elves to recover her flock. It was published in My First Picture Book, printed in colors by Kronheim in 1875, and there's an alternate version of the story by L. Frank Baum. You know who L. Frank Baum is, right?
Why don't you tell
Wizard
me?
of Oz.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right. The amount of stuff I don't know will shock you. Or
not really.
Because you've talked to me before.
I've talked to you.
Know. Yeah.
I know you. I think I know you.
You're looking for somebody who doesn't know something. I know a guy.
You might enjoy reading the original Mother Goose's nursery rhyme, Little Bo Peep, which everybody knows.
Mm-hmm. Or at least the first stanza.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I decided to just do a tiny little one this time because I've got something a little bit better for next time.
Okay, but no, 1875, that's been around for a little bit of time.
And that was just that book, which is based upon the nursery rhyme, which doesn't really have a real place where they can see where it came from.
Huh, okay.
But I can always do a little more research on that. But that's all I'm going to do this time because, like I said, not feeling great.
I don't wanna.
But I'm feeling well enough to say, Jeff, what do you got in your test tube, buddy?
I've got a science corner in my test tube, and it's percolating up some information. In this issue, Kofi escaped the Snarks that were hunting him by teleporting inside of a floating glass lava bubble and teleporting into space. So, was this a good idea, and would it work? Initial bad idea portions of it include the fact that it would be lava temperature hot and filled with who knows what kind of nasty gases. Well, let's say that these problems got dealt with via teleportation. Kofi brings good air with them, and space cooling the bubble. Well, would his glass bubble survive long enough for him to be rescued? The innermost pane of the space shuttle window is constructed of tempered aluminosilicate glass to withstand the crew compartment pressure and is about half an inch thick. So we know some kinds of glass can handle the pressure, and maybe this glass is one of them. The biggest worry is the air inside of the bubble in the vacuum of space. Let's use a common balloon to demonstrate why. When you blow up a balloon on Earth, the air pushed into the balloon is at a higher pressure than the air that surrounds it. This greater pressure is what inflates the balloon in the first place. As more atmospheric air is pushed into the restricted place, the number of collisions between air molecules will increase, thus creating more pressure and pushing the walls of the balloon outwards. On Earth, when you blow up a balloon past a certain point, it will pop because the molecules of the latex have limited elasticity, and will eventually succumb to the pressure of the air inside. That is the moment when the balloon blows up in your face. However, in space, there is no external air pressure pushing back on every surface of the balloon, so when a person blows air into the balloon itself, that air has nothing to hold it in except for the rubber walls. The air molecules in a balloon in space would expand at an extremely rapid rate, quickly pushing the rubber walls past their elasticity limits, causing the balloon to explode. In fact, as soon as you took an inflated balloon from the pressurized cabin of a spaceship, it would take less than a second for the pressurized air inside of the balloon to expand and explode. The air molecules inside the balloon would be moving at roughly the speed of sound or even slightly faster as it escaped the confines of the balloon. So, would Kofi's idea work in the real world? I'm going to say maybe. He wasn't in it for very long, and during that time the glass did start to crack, so we know that it would eventually have failed, but it did give him just enough time to teleport to safety. So, all in all, I'm going to say that it was a good idea and that it made a great temporary stopgap until he could teleport into Friday. And that is Science Corner.
But I have a question for you, Jeff.
I may have answers.
In space, can anybody hear you whinny?
It depends on if you have atmospheric conditions and oxygen. If you are in space proper and nothing is around you, then no, because there's no atmosphere to transport the sound waves. But if you are in a glass bubble or a space station or a smart ship and whinnying, then yes, the people inside of it could hear you, but the people outside in space could not.
So mostly you're just saying, nay.
That's what you were trying to go for, I know.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I just wanted to ruin your joke and make it last as long as possible with some science.
I still like my joke. I still like my joke. I still like my joke. My joke was better than your attempt to not have my joke.
Only one guy gets dad jokes here, and that's this guy. And that guy. Both of us. Okay. Only two people get to dad joke here.
I get a dad joke all the time. And the best thing about my dad jokes, I get 2 groans, whereas right now you just get 1 groan. Wait till you have an 8-year-old.
Yeah, right now I just get da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Wah wah.
Yeah, and that's what Hillary sounds like. But what about your daughter?
Oh, she's very eloquent. She's all, oh, father, your jests and japes do not amuse.
That sounds more like your cat.
Yeah.
Anyways, what else can we talk about your family?
Mannequin lawyer.
I was going to talk about the refrigerator.
Oh, let's talk about that. What should we put on the refrigerator?
That is a fantastic question.
Currently on mine, it's one of those alphabet singing devices where you put a magnetized letter on there and it tells you what the letter is and sings a song about it.
Well, I think I would like to put on a couple of funny joke things.
Oh, we could possibly do that.
I actually brought my comic book as opposed to Jeff, who didn't bring his comic book to his own house.
It's in the house. I don't know where it is because of the remodel.
So I'm going to go ahead and tell you my backup joke, and that's on page 16, and I'm calling it, Is Franklin Drunk?
Oh, yeah, that bottom right panel is a great one. Yep. In fact, that is actually my backup favorite art one.
It's a picture of Franklin, and he's being put to sleep by the hypnotic monitor. And he's leaning back on the main chair inside Friday, and his eyes are getting really heavy, and he looks like he's drunk.
Yeah, it's not a backup joke, my actual backup art. I call that one, I'm not sleepy.
I like mine better.
Yeah, yours is pretty great.
All right.
That is a good look that is like, you've seen a kid when they're starting to drift, and that is that face. It is wonderful.
Tell me a funny one for yourself.
Okay. My joke backup one is on page 5. I call it every kid at every window ever.
Yeah. I just have this one, the kids making faces.
Yep. It is the second down panel, and it is the, it's Julie, Alex, and Jack trapped in their crystal cages, and it is... they're in there and they're making fun of Jackal and they're making faces and sticking out their tongues and, making the piggy nose and all that stuff and, and just trying to taunt and torment Jackal so he attacks the crystals. And yeah, I'm just like, yeah, that's literally every kid I think I've ever seen at a plate glass window. So
that's kind of funny though. Our backup funny ones are our backup art ones. My funny one, another funny one I had was on page 2 and it's the bottom. And I call this one, let's just drag her across the floor.
Those burrowers are pretty great.
Yeah, the burrowers they're running through this tunnel, and they're just pulling Katie, and they're thumping her head across the ground, which can't be good.
No, that is kind of a cruddy rescue. But at the same time, they're smaller than Katie, so there's two of them, and they're doing their best in tight confines, and so I would kind of fully expect them to bash her around a little bit.
Can we just say that John Boggs' artwork is fantastic throughout this entire book, though?
It is good. It is really good.
He does really good on backgrounds. He really fills in the entire scene, and you get the emptiness of space and the close confines of the caverns all at once. It's
a little less detail-oriented, though. It's a little kind of broad brushstrokes, but it looks really good.
I don't know. I mean, I know Brent Anderson definitely has more detail, but he's got more detail than anybody. Yeah. But I think it's quite comparable to June Brigman's.
Okay.
What is your favorite one?
My favorite joke is on page 11. And I call it... I fought in your general direction. And it is in the bottom right-hand corner, and it is the panel where Kofi is running away from the Snark shooting lasers at him, and he's doing all 4 runs, but he's looking back over his shoulder, and his flanks, we'll say, are right up in the air as he's 4-leg running away.
And it doesn't help that his thought balloon kind of is positioned back that way as well.
And above that thought balloon is a laser sound which says "Shracked," which who knows what that might represent.
Wow. I can't look at that scene any differently now.
So yeah, the thought bubble coming out of his flanks and the laser "Shracked" coming out of his flanks as well doesn't ergo my name for it.
If you guys want to see this too, we are going to have this up on our website. We highly recommend you check it out. jeffandbergpresent.wordpress.com. All these pictures we talk about, we always put them up there, so you can always check them out. I'm also going to put up the picture of that Franklin drew for his family too.
Which you should. It's fantastic.
But let's talk about our top ones.
Okay, well, you already know what my backup one is, which was your joke backup one, and I know what your backup one is because it was my joke backup one.
That was very complicated. I like that a lot. If we go to page 5, and this scene with Jackal on page 5, he's angry and he's holding up his withered, burnt hand that Katie kind of demolished at the end of last issue.
Yeah.
And you can see the sinew, you can see it just blackened. It does not look healthy. It's just a vicious, vicious picture. I love that picture.
So do I. What did you call it for your first place art?
I just called it Jackal.
Okay, mine is the Claw. Yeah, it's a great bit.
We could also accept it. I got your Kentucky Fried Chicken right here.
Yeah. You could also call it Burnt Offerings.
Burnt Offerings.
Yeah.
We got the top. We tied on a lot of stuff here. I mean, not to say that there isn't any good pictures. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, there's some great stuff. I was looking at, some of the lava bubbles was pretty great. There was a lot of neat stuff in here.
But let's talk about some other funny stuff. Let's talk about some good insults. So tell me about your backup insults.
My backup is on page 13, and it is after he's running away from the Snarks, and the Snarks are chasing him, and he goes into a really thin cavern, the little passage where they're going, eventually they're going to try and cut him off, and the Snarks are, saying, "Go after him, get in that cavern," kind of thing. And Kofi yells back at the Snarks, "Yeah, come on, stupid! I just love to see you get your fat tail stuck in here." So you get a "yeah, stupid" and fat tails, and I thought that was pretty great.
Because there's nothing like, mocking somebody who's got energy guns. My backup is on page 5, and we've already mentioned the scene, but it's all of the taunts that are coming from the kids.
You are looking at my first place.
Yeah, we can't beat it. I mean, we got a lot of good things here. We got Jack saying,
Mama's boy, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hey, Alex, you hear something?
Yeah, it's the wind blowing through Jackal's empty skull.
Yep, that one right there is my first place.
Yeah.
That's my first base bet, yeah.
It's
just a great insult.
All of the insults going on that page. Those are... See, I did not choose that for my top one. My top one was on page 18. It's where Katie says...
I didn't know Kofi's dad was a coward.
Oh, yeah.
I like that one because it's her just... right there.
Queen Maraud had a good one with her son, too. When he's like, I might just kill the power kids. And she's like... cease the ravings of this troubled and unstable mind kind of thing. And I'm all, yeah.
That's a nice one. That's a good honorable mention one there. Let's move on to our favorite part where we talk about stars and detention. What are stars and detention, Jeff?
Stars are the kids that were the best in the issue, and detention were the kids that were the worst in the issue.
I seriously couldn't have said it better myself.
So who is your detention kid?
My detention kid this time is Katie.
I was close on that. I fully understand why.
Yeah. I can't really choose the 3 that are captured because they're doing their best. I can't choose Kofi because he was my second choice for best. So I had to go with Katie, who really just wanted to die. And it's only because she was paired with an even worse person that she didn't that she did anything.
The reason why she isn't my worst is because she actually did help Yurik escape because she disintegrated some cavern.
Sure.
So that was why she was not my worst.
Yeah, and she did something, but I kind of was like, oh, Katie.
She was, again, really close to being my detention kid. Right. My detention kid is Alex.
Okay.
Yeah, and that it was simply, I know they were trapped in their cells, so they couldn't do much of anything, but Alex gave up first of saying, this is dumb, it's not going to work. And then followed by Julie, who gave up, and then followed by Jack.
At the same time,
But they were trapped in there, but yeah, so they were doing the best they could, but it was just the aspect that it was kind of, Sir does not appear in this issue, and he gave up in the cells first. He never tried to, rally hope.
I don't really see that as a problem, though, because... it seemed kind of logical. It's like, okay, we tried this. It's just not working. Let's think of something else.
Yeah, but they don't try and think of anything else. He's just like, this isn't going to work. And he was kind of like, I'm just going to sit in my cell and hope something else happens.
I kind of can see it. I just...
Again, Katie, excellent choice. Yeah. But I'm just going for off of what they did. And being trapped in a cell, I know, it kind of sucks. But that, kind of weighed a factor in as well.
I kind of tipped my hand a little bit about who my best one is. Who's your favorite?
My favorite is Kofi.
Okay.
Fair enough. He was an action star. He was great. He was running. He was fighting snarks. He was doing stuff. He did the brave thing and took it on. He took the leap of faith and got in a goober and teleported up into space.
I got to tell you, he was my second choice because my other one was Franklin.
I was going with Franklin for quite a little while until I re-looked at the issue and I was like, I'm going with Kofi.
The reason I went with Franklin over Kofi is that he did that extra little bit of being Jiminy Cricket on Kofi's shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Kofi wouldn't have done half the cool stuff he did if it wasn't Franklin saying, poke, 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 poke,
maybe.
Poke, poke.
Maybe, but the only thing that that Franklin told Kofi to do was teleport into space. Kofi might have tried to teleport up as high as he could anyway, and then wound up in space.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell.
It's hard to tell. I think either one is a good choice, though.
There was also the aspect Franklin called Friday. Franklin went into space. He took matters into his own hand.
That is exactly what I have here. Taking matters into his own hands. Bam. So, yeah.
I also like the fact that Kofi, after he gets, meets up with Franklin in Friday, is telling him, it's like, your powers are wonderful. And Franklin's like, what? No, because they share my parents. And he's like, no, you have wonderful powers. You're, basically saying, you don't have a problem. You're great. So.
Right. They both were really good.
Yeah, they were neck and neck for me, but I just ran Kofi as my top guy. So, yeah.
Well, I think you just have a love affair with horses.
Love me some ponies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I have no segue. G-force, my friend. G-force.
G-force. We have yet again experienced 0 G-force, which you will experience much like Kofi in a glass bubble in space. And our G average is 1.16 bar repeating, and that is still approaching the surface gravity of Neptune. And that G total stays and remains at 28, which is the surface gravity of the sun, our sun. So there you go. There is a little bit of G-force count and what is going on.
And I don't think we've been really clear on it because we've kind of been breezing by it. But once again, what we're doing there is we're trying to count the number of G's Alex drops during the comic.
Yeah, because he started, like, the first handful of issues, I think the first one he dropped 8. And, and then G, it was his catchphrase, and it was going more and more. And then he just... People were saying his name, but he wasn't saying his catchphrase, and he very rarely is saying it now.
Yeah,
he's grown
like
up.
I said, we may have to phase this out.
Maybe we'll find out.
We'll find out. But for now, let's talk about top grades.
Mm-hmm.
We want to evaluate this issue against other stories with Power Pack in it. We have 26 stories on here, all the way from Power Pack 19 to Thor number 363. Mm-hmm. The last issue was missing, and this is part of a good storyline. So let's see how we rated against missing. We've got missing kind of in the middle of the pack at issue number 16. Once again, it's not a bad issue at all. It's it's setting things up. This is furthering the adventure. Yeah. Do we find that this is better than the last issue, or I think they're very comparable?
They're comparable. I would put them next to each other.
Okay, I would say that I think that we're getting more into the meat of things, and there's more storylines up in the air, and I like the way that even though there's a lot of storylines, a lot of things happening, we have 3 main storylines going on, because we have the kids trapped in the crystals, we have Katie down in the caverns with Yurik, and then we have Kofi and Franklin. Yeah. And of course, we've got the other story with their dad.
Yeah, the stuff with the dad, the stuff with Hadge, the stuff with the Emperor.
Right. Those are all off to the side, too. But we got those 3 main storylines, and we can keep track of them very well through the issue. There's a lot in here with only the regular page count of a normal comic.
Yeah, there really is.
So I want to say that this is probably better.
Yep, I'd agree.
I'm actually fine with going up a little bit further, because I think that this does a little bit more. It's comparable, but I think that at the same time it does a lot with keeping a lot of things going on.
How high up would you put it? Because I would think I would just put it right above it.
The action is building up so much that I'm willing to go up and say that this is a lot like Snark Attack, where they first faced Jackal.
Okay, I could see that, but I like that one better.
Would you like that one? You like that one better? Would you go below it?
If I like that one better, I would go somewhere in between. Missing and Snark Attack. I don't know where I'd put it in there, because honestly, I think it should go like just above Missing. But
you know what? Trapped kind of was the snow issue, where kind of the prequel to this. How about right below there?
Right below there works.
Okay. We'll put it under as Trapped. So this is going to be the new number 10.
There you go.
And I'm already going to go ahead and call this right now, but I think next week we get a real top shooter going on.
You think so? Well, we'll find out when we review that one.
So now let's talk about ranking our beer. How many Powerballs would we give Starlight White Ale?
Well, what are your thoughts on it? I know at the beginning we talked about it kind of a little bit, because it is different. It is different than what we've normally been drinking.
Yes. The taste hasn't grown on me.
No.
I don't think the taste ever will grow on me.
Not really.
It's grapefruity. It's got that guava taste in there.
Yeah.
It kind of goes away on my tongue, but there feels like there's kind of a chemical thing there.
Yeah. The taste, like with all things, the taste does fade. But
it fades fast, but it leaves something else there.
Days, and it's kind of a.
We're not doing.
I don't know.
We are not doing very good at describing this, but
yeah, we're not doing it justice, and I want to say it leaves an old battery taste on my tongue.
Yeah,
which is kind of a terrible descriptor for it, but that's kind of what I feel with it.
I'm gonna go ahead and say 2.
2? Yeah, I could go for 2 on this. I was thinking 2.5, but then there's been a couple that I've kind of reviewed where I'm like, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. There was the one that had we
had a burning tire.
The burning tire, that was one, but then there was one before it that was the figs or something. But then I was like, I'll give it a 2.5. And I need to be harsher on some of my beers. I'd give this a 2. I mean,
actually, if we want to be harsher, let me think about this a bit. I would say actually 1.5 because I realize I could go for a 0. I could go for a half. I could go for 1.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go for 1.5 because I just don't see myself drinking this again. As far as something that's pleasant about it, if it's a nice hot day, this would be maybe, but it's not something I would go for.
Again, it tastes like the dregs of a margarita to me, so it reminds me of a drink that I'd rather be having.
Yeah.
So I can be a little bit more lenient on it. I'm going to stick with the 2. Again, not really my flavor, but it's not like I'm spitting it out.
Right.
To me, it really does taste like the watered down end dregs of a drink.
So 1.5 for me and 2 for Jeff. And we'll call it that.
Now that we've talked about beer, let's talk about kids, and more importantly, their perspective on the issue at hand. So kids' perspective time is when Rick talks to his daughter Carrie, and she says her thoughts on the issue. So, Rick and Carrie, take it away.
Hello, Carrie. How are you?
Good.
Are you ready to talk about a new Power Pack issue?
Sure.
All right. So, it's been a little while. Tell me what happened in that comic.
3 different things. Maybe 4.
Okay. What were some of the things that happened?
Kofi escaped.
Where did he escape from? He escaped from
the Snarks.
Yeah? And where was he at when he escaped from the Snarks?
In this big diamond thingy.
A big cave kind of thing? Yeah? Oh, that's right. He did go into a crystal bubble, didn't he?
Yeah.
What else happened? What else did he do?
He saw Franklin.
Yeah, Franklin helped him out, didn't he? What else happened in the book?
Meanwhile, Julie, Alex, and Jack are like trying their hardest to get out. And they try to make Jackal feel really upset so that he can break the crystal.
The crystal shell or the crystal prison that they're in?
Yeah.
And did that work?
No.
So they're still captured, aren't they?
Yeah. And then at the end...
What happened at the end?
Powers got taken.
Yes, they did.
I
What are you doing? What were you doing there?
was using my finger and putting it near my eye, and then I was pretending it was a tear.
So it's sad that the kids lost their powers?
And in the next one, spoilers. I saw that instead of them using their powers, Jack's throwing a rock. Alex is like having his hand looking like a claw.
It looks like he's actually holding a rock, yeah.
Yeah, and Julie just has this big stick in her hand, and she looks like she's gonna whack the snark with it.
So it doesn't look like they've got any powers, does it?
No. And meanwhile, Kitty's just like drooping down in Julie's arms.
But where's Katie at now in this book?
Under the Snark World,
And who's she with?
the cave dwellers, and Kofi's dad.
Yes, that's right. And his name is Uric. Does he have his powers anymore?
Nope.
Chancellor Hadge has Uric's healing powers, doesn't she?
Yeah, because she's gonna heal Jack, and is it turned into this like black thing? And I don't know how that's gonna be helpful because then picking up stuff, how that hurt. I was like trying to think about how painful it would be, and I'm like, ugh.
Jackal's just not doing well right now, but
Oh,
he's supposedly going to be getting the powers, isn't he?
the powers. The
Yeah.
powers.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about that issue?
Sure.
What?
Down here it says, and it's nothing compared to what's coming next. The 25th anniversary double-size ending to the Snark Wars, in which everyone loses his powers and finds some new ones. You'll hate yourself if you miss it.
Well, you better not miss it then. I think the comic book's upstairs waiting for you to read it, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that's all for this one. Thank you very much for your time, Carrie.
You're welcome.
I love you.
Love you too.
Shout out time! We want to recognize those listeners that take the time to write in or leave us a review. This is going to be a little bit long because we got a lot of comments and likes from episode 28, which was our awesome interview with Wheezy Simonson. And I would like to say thank you to the many kind words and retweets. We really are glad that so many people enjoyed this, and we hope that we kept a lot of them to stick around to us talking about other shows. From Facebook, Bradley Austin Knoll,
Colin Stapleton,
Hoover Jeremiah,
Jeff Polier,
Jeremy Daw,
Joey Burdick,
Jonathan Schaefer Hames,
Keith Baker,
Kyle Sinelli,
Max Traver,
Nathan Hubbard,
Pat Sampson,
Scott Sutton Johnson, who really, really, really appreciated us showing Wheezy a picture of his Power Pack tattoo. Yes, she knows that you have a Power Pack tattoo.
Yeah, we're going to basically show that to everybody who interviews on our show that was involved with Power Pack one way or another.
We have to.
Have to. Sue Howard.
And Tracy Earhart.
On Twitter, we have Alexander.
AJ.
By Crom.
Brian Meenam.
0 dash.
Chris at BTO and Bat Books.
Comic Reflections.
Comics in the Golden Age.
Craig
McNichol.
Dan Grote, who wrote that Wheezy interacting with an 8-year-old is a gold dang delight.
David Adler.
Delvin the Dark Web.
Dr. G Nerdologist.
Great Scott.
It's Stacy HD.
Greg A.
The Hammer Strikes.
Hicks.
I Am That I Am.
Former External.
Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men.
Jeremy Daw.
Ladies of Comics.
Lady M's Dressmaker.
Let's Talk Julie Power.
Let's Talk New Warriors.
Let's Talk Power Pack.
Limex7.
Natalie.
Mal.
Married with Comics with John and Maggie.
Matthew Birdsey.
Molly.
Moses of Oz.
Nicopedia.
Professor Frenzy.
Pointless Ephemera.
Psychopomp 321.
Rad Adventures.
Radioactive Dog Welder, who squealed with delight when he heard us talking about him to Wheezy.
Rustin LF.
Ryan.
Secret Wars and Beyond. He was nervous just listening and had no idea how we held it together.
Siskoid.
Stuart Christensen.
Tim Price.
Topical Pun at the GNC, who said the interview was great, and not just because we were interviewing a national treasure.
Victor Perfecto.
Walking by Starlight.
Warlock Thanos Podcast.
Zawazawa. Be sure to check out another show that I am on, Rick Meets the Legion. Nicholas Prom guides me through decades of old DC comics while we drink. You can find this show on Comic Reflection Podcast. And also, I'd like to say a big thank you to Rustin LF and to Lucas from The Math of You. They both contributed their specific artwork to a project that I was doing, and we now have stickers, which is great. So I'm going to start passing those out whenever and wherever I can.
Jeff and Rick Present is a bi-weekly self-produced podcast recorded in front of a room full of stuff from another room.
That smells like beer.
In Portland, Oregon. If you would like to interact with us through the magic of the internet, you can do so through Twitter at Jeff Rick Present, our Facebook page, Jeff and Rick Present, our email address, Jeff and Rick Present, all one word, at gmail.com, or at our website, jeffandrickpresent.wordpress.com.
And if you would like to help support our show, we are on Patreon. You can find us at patreon.com, Jeff and Rick Present, all one word.
Please rate and review us on iTunes or Stitcher. Tell your friends about us or share your love for us on social media.
And as always, we want to thank the wonderful women in our lives. My wife Cindy and our daughter Carrie.
My fiancée Hillary and our daughter Aurora. We love you. Until next time, costumes off.
Our theme music is 80s Action. Also featured in this episode is Glitter Blast. All music is by Kevin McLeod at Incompetech.com and is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license.
If you love comic... No, wait. I've already messed it up. Fail.
You failed.
I've failed many things at life. That's what I've learned. If you try, you fail. Therefore...
Don't try.
That's the Homer Simpson world of advice. This is my banter. This is my gun. One is for... No, I messed it all up. This is my random. This is my gun. One is for I'm gonna just keep on messing that up.
And to ponder how their parents are feeling about them being missing. Throw something in there.
Yep, they are. Whoop, there it is. Who in fact let the dogs out. Anything like that? Or something... something better that ties in.
Something a little bit better than that.
Okay.
Come on, ad-lib. Be funny.
I'm not funny anymore. I'm old and tired. Rick says some stuff while the music is playing, and then what happens after that? My favorite part, because I forgot all about the words that I'd said. It's outtake time.
It's where I take all the stuff on my little file with outtakes and call it good.
It's all our junker bits and throwaway lines that get piled into a pile of fun.